Choy, and this is Trading with Livevol. This is where I trade my own Reg T account using LVX, and you guys can follow what I do and how I use this software to trade. So let's go right to my accounts. So this is a little unusual for me in the past couple of weeks. I'm actually solidly in the green by 2000. So I kind of stem my losing streak here, hopefully, but the day is not over, so I'm not going to count my chickens yet. But at least it's up. That's better than being down. Some of the things that, as you guys know, I trade ZNGA, so I'll just cover that real quick. It had a pretty big pop this morning, went all the way up to like 505, but since then retraced back, and basically it's going back and forth. I did find out, and I don't know why I didn't know this, but I guess the company that makes Candy Crush is going IPO this week. Might be one of the reasons why the sell-off happened, because they were taking money out and reallocating it to the new IPO. But you know, in the end, I'm not going to know. Sometimes, you know, if I look at this kind of action on the stock, it might lead me to think it's bearish. But usually, with ZNGA, it doesn't really have that much effect, and usually even this kind of candle pattern is a bullish pattern for ZNGA, I believe. And if I look at the stats, most of them have been bullish, except this largest trade where they bought 2,000 of the 4.5 puts. So in the end, I'm just kind of riding it and seeing what happens. I'm sure some of you guys are kind of tired of listening to ZNGA every day, but since it's my biggest position, I pretty much have to give you guys a recap. Now to something else. So as you guys know, I've been talking about Apple quite a bit, how it's been kind of channeling in this range, and I felt like it was going to break out to the upside, right? So I'm not sure if this constitutes a breakout. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. For me, it's not enough. Also, I was going to use the option order flow and the volatility to kind of give me an indication. The volatility is already pretty much at a 52-week low, so that doesn't really tell me too much. But the order flow, I was waiting for some bullish order flow. I mean, it's a little bullish, calls to puts. You can see that the net deltas are positive and they're selling premium. But look at the biggest trades, right? So the biggest trade is still, as I said before, either people are you know, really interested in either seems like buying or selling the straddle, and this gentleman right here is more of a seller. So April, and I'm guessing just because, well, I think that's a good question. Maybe it's not. You know, when I looked at it like 5 minutes ago, it looked like for sure it was selling, but now I'm not sure because it's right in the middle of both. I thought it was trading like 1467 instead of 77. So now I'm not sure what this is, whether it's buying or selling. You know, maybe it is buying, but this person definitely doesn't think it's just gonna go up. Obviously, the person is ready for both movement. If the person's a buyer, if the person's a seller, then he thinks it's not going to move. So since this is kind of like unclear, I'm not going to take anything into account on that one. And looking at the other order flow, it's pretty neutral. So, you know, I was looking at some trades to do this morning. And I was so tempted just because, you know, I've been waiting for it to break out just to buy some calls. But I kind of decided against it. So I was looking at some spreads to do, but there was no real good spreads that actually fit. I was looking at maybe the, you know, maybe the April 19, 525, 545 spread, right? But it wasn't really that great. So let me actually punch it in. So yeah, it's about 1225. So you'll have to put up $1,220 to make roughly 780, which isn't bad, like 66% return. But you know, this basically what you would need Apple to do is you would need Apple to trade 545 or higher. So at the current price, you know, you would still make some. You know, if it's like 1225 or 1250, and it's so 37.5. Yeah, so basically it's like a $4 that you would actually have cushions to play with, but in the end, I didn't feel anything that compelling to do. I had Apple before, not this time, but back in July. I thought it was kind of low because when it made this two bottom, right? So, but it went up really quickly. So in June, you know, you can see like, let me see if I can actually narrow this down. Right. So in June, it was trading like 396, and then August it was trading, you know, basically 490. So basically, it went up 100 points in a few months, and maybe that could be the case here, but we'll see. There's a lot of talk about Apple possibly going up 20% because of the new iPhone 6, et cetera, but we'll see what happens. I do notice using the TC2000, and I'll put that up there, that more institutions are kind of getting into Apple. So that's my thinking in Apple. I would like to kind of play to the upside, but right now I just don't see anything that's that great. So I'm just gonna wait on it. Let me talk about the RSX. So you guys know that I've been following some order flow on these. Let me see the stats. Okay, looks like all these traded. I didn't know about it before, so I traded mine before these. Let me actually see what they are. I'm just seeing this. So I'm actually going through this with you guys together. So it looks like 9:30 was when they started. They sold 55. Looks like that's selling. That is buying. And then selling again. Selling. So I think most of these are selling. Of these puts, April 22. I actually sold these this morning. Let me see if I can find my 10 lot here. This might actually be my 10 lot right here. 23 puts, 10 contracts, 85 cents. So I sold this thinking that it was a good way of getting some premium. So as you guys know, yesterday I was talking to you guys about trying to have a position where it was positive theta net. That way all the shots that I took during the daytime, I mean during the course of the month, basically if nothing happened to those stocks, I wouldn't be down money because of theta. This theta is basically your enemy when you're buying options. So I want to take my shots, but I would like this theta to be positive. So when I was trading professionally, I pretty much always had positive theta, unless the VIX was like, you know, in the bottom like 20 percentile, would be where I might be more inclined not to be, or like heading into the fall. Like so September, October, November range was when I was okay with being long theta just because a lot of the crazy stuff seems to happen during that time. So other than that, I was always positive theta, and what I would like to do with this account is also be positive theta, but I don't really know exactly how to go about doing it, and I need to sell. Basically, I need to sell more options as I'm buying. So I sold these for 85 cents this morning, trying to collect 850 bucks. Why did I sell it? The reason I sold it, and I might actually, now that I see this order flow, you see this 45 cents, I might actually eventually buy this back and maybe roll into the 22s. But I bought it because of the news that was coming out from this whole annexing of Crimea. And basically, it seems like everyone is okay with Russia owning Crimea as long as they don't advance further into Ukraine. And like right now, I feel like Russia, if anything, would be consolidating Crimea more than trying to advance into the next spot. So I think there's like some dead time right now where maybe I feel like there could be this bounce, right? So there might be some quiet period out of Ukraine for the next couple of weeks, and in that time, RXS should kind of balance and kind of regain a little bit. So, you know, maybe I'll roll this down into the April 22 puts, but I'll see how it goes. So I did this trade this morning, and then it looks like all these trades came in where they're selling puts. So we'll see what happens. So so that's my trade in RSX. Just to catch you guys up, I did this FXI trade earlier, and the reason I did it was because this person did this huge 1x2. So if I should click on this, you can see this huge spike in volume on March 10th in FXI. So I go to the charts tab, I go to March 10th, and then I click on this volume bar, and you can see that somebody did a 1x2 where they bought the 33.5 puts and sold the 35 puts, but they did it for credit. So it's almost like they bought the straddle, but for credit, right? Which I really liked, because as you guys know, I like selling the premium. So I basically piggybacked it, and what I need this FXI to do is be away from 33 or 35. So, you know, right now it looked like it was actually going to go below 33, and now it looks like it's going to go above 33, but that's kind of where I am on the FXI. So yesterday, you know, I was talking to you guys about my visit to the San Francisco Bay Area options group, as well as like just generally trying to see how other retail clients trade. And it looks like a lot of the retail clients are into some kind of premium selling strategy in the indices. So I am kind of trying to do that in EEM, which is an emerging market ETF. So if it gets to this upper range, I'm thinking of selling some more calls, and then maybe buying these back, or letting them pretty much expire and selling some more puts. But it's just difficult to do with a Reg T account in a leverage where it makes you enough money. But right now, I'm just kind of experimenting and seeing how it is. So usually what I do, for some of you guys who want to know how I come up with new ideas to trade, you know, I always look at this scanners to see what's trading. What I try to do is I kind of try to see if there is stocks that I recognize. If not, then I'm not as interested, but you know, you can still kind of look at it, right? So look at, you see there's 49,000 in KGC. You can see the stats, 49,000 traded, only 1,200 puts, and you can see 37,000 of them was selling the May 5 calls, right? So I'm gonna actually go to May 5 calls. Yeah, so it looks like there's 3,000 open interest, and 1,000 of these traded. 37,000. Let me see which one it is, because I don't think it's the same. May 17th. I'm at March. Right, so there, oh, looks like I bought some Zynga here. I'll talk about that a little later. So 45,000 traded so far, and they have been all selling. So for those of you guys trading this stock, and I don't trade it, I'm not really intending on trading anything, I think it's an important thing to kind of know that somebody is unloading on the 5 calls, whether they're doing buy rights or whatever the reason. It's important to know, and then that way you can trade with the right kind of information. There's a lot of times you should know whether, and you see there's 28,000. Most of the time, if it was less than 28,000, then I would think maybe it might be closing, but since it's more, maybe it's adding, and as you can see, like this open interest line has been going up. So who knows why they're selling it? You'll have to dig into it a little bit more, but it's one of the ways you can kind of see what's happening, especially in the stocks that you trade, right? So let's actually see what happened with Zynga. So I had these calls in there. So these 100 calls, I put a nickel bid, I mean a penny bid on these on the Zynga March 5.5 calls. I know some of you guys are saying like, man, this guy keeps loading up on these calls and all the stock is doing is going down. But from my experience trading Zynga, and it's only been a short time, but you see this candlestick where it kind of, this normally if I saw something like that where it opened up and then it sold off throughout the day, that's very that's not bullish, right? Just generally. But with Zynga, it seems like they do that quite often. So you see how like this day they sold off, but then next day went up. Like this day it sold off, but eventually went up again. So like there've been a lot of periods where they have these like sell-offs, but in the end it didn't seem to stop the momentum from keep going up. So I don't really consider this too bearish. In fact, I think the fact that it actually stopped going down is a positive sign, or at least like something I can look forward to. And who cares? Like you put $100 down on these, and basically all you need to do is maybe sell 10 of these. Hope this thing pops to like $5, and then you can try to sell some of these if you don't think like it's going to go that much higher, or try to sell like 10 more of these puts and buy some of these puts. But in the end, like I like owning bullets, especially cheap ones. It allows you to do a lot of things. So let's say Zynga has another great day tomorrow and it goes to like 5.10 or 5.15. I can actually start selling these calls against the 5.5 calls I bought for a penny. I kind of consider them, these are like your pawns, right? You're kind of getting them into position before the actual battle begins, so you actually have a good way of battling it out. So that's why I buy a lot. I love buying cheap options. I used to spend about 50,000 a month just buying cheap options, and obviously I just didn't buy them and then not sell anything against it. But out of all the stuff that I sold, I would take a portion of that and basically buy cheap options just to make sure if things started moving, I got kind of like a good surprise instead of a bad surprise, right? So so that's one thing. So one of the things I also get is this report right here. this is an awesome report. This is the earnings analysis report. I get it every morning. And what it does is it tells you the stock, when they're going to report earnings, before, after market, estimated earnings, stock price currently, whether they have weekly options, what the implied volatility is of the first to expiration, and what the options implied move is. So this is what the options are implying as of this morning. And this is the average movement of the stock after earnings. So let me actually use not 5, as there's no information available. But let's actually use this GameStop, right? GameStop, 7% is what the implied move is. In the last 4 previous earnings, it moved 5.6. Last 8, it moved 6.2. And the average of last 12 was 5.2. So what I do is I actually look at stocks that I know over here. And today there's a decent amount. And I actually start looking through them, see if there's any opportunity, right? So I look at GameStop. I look at the volatility. It's not really that high, right? So you can see year vol. It's only at 49, and when the high is around 50. So it's kind of in the middle range. It's gone up a little. I look at the earnings. Looks like GameStop might move. Looks like move $4 there, $4 there, about $3 there. So it moves like $3 to $4. And the at the money is right now is saying it's going to move slightly over 3, but these expire this week, right? So I look at this, then I look at the stats, and you can see it's very, very heavy call buying, right, of the April 42s. So for this person, and I'm assuming one thing here. I'm assuming this is the only position they have. If somebody bought these calls for 67 cents, you can only make money if it goes beyond 42.67. But this is by April expiration, right? Not end of this week. So I'm gonna actually go to the April. Right. So what was it again? April 42, right? So April 42 calls, right? So 5,000 of these traded, and they're basically buying these. And what you have to do is see whether that's whether that's going to come in or not. Usually, I kind of am not a big buyer of options in earnings because it seems a little riskier than selling, but basically it's wedging in, and I can see the stock going to $42 if they have good earnings, but we'll see, right? So they recently got some bad news that like Walmart was going to compete with them in the resale or refurbished game business, but we'll see what happens, right? So that I look at it, I'm kind of like looking at the options. There isn't anything that's screaming out to me, except for the fact that maybe this $36 range might be the downside, because you see how like there's this huge volume right here where people bought it up. Let me actually. So this is the volume of how much it traded over here on the left. You can see 35 to 37 is the range. And right now it's right above it. So maybe there's pretty decent support around the 35 range of this. And maybe for GameStop, that might be the one to sell. So instead of, and let's see what they did here. Yeah, so they're buying the 42s on both sides, right? So now they're either buying because they think they want to short the stock, and then they want to only have a limit of $4, or they actually think it's going to go up because of the fact that it's at a, let me actually put in weekly here. Right, so I'm actually doing this with you guys right now, right? So if you were bearish, you would probably buy these calls, and then you short the stock, thinking that maybe the stock will go down to 26, right? So that's kind of like what you would be doing if you bought those calls and shorted the stock. Right now, you know, none of this stuff is like clear indication to me of anything, except for the fact that maybe, you know, for me, I would be more interested in maybe selling some puts, right? So maybe, you know, selling the April 35 puts. But my problem is, like, it seems like if it does drop, it has a chance of going to 30 bucks, which is pretty big drop. So, you know, for now, I'm gonna pass on it, but maybe, you know, selling the put is a way to go. This is March 27th before market open, so I still have another day. So I might follow it for one more day and see how I do. So that's pretty much right now not that big a deal. This 5, let's see what this is. 5 below, never heard of it. 5 below, retail offering range of merchandise for teen and preteens. Okay, so it seems like they sell some products for teens. Let me actually see if I can find the website. No. Huh. 5 below. Okay. So maybe I should type in 5 below if I want to actually. Okay, here we go. 5 below. Okay, so yeah, they sell teen stuff. So maybe it's like more like Eagle Outfitters, that kind of thing. I don't know much about the stock. So that's kind of what I do. I try to find out what the stock is first. Then I look at the chart and I see, like, basically, yeah, it's a pretty high vol because it has earnings. I look at the earnings tab. Looks like it's moved a little bit here, moved a bit here. So, like, if you bought the straddle here, you would have broken even, you would have made money, you would have made a little bit of money. So, like, buying the straddle here isn't that bad of an idea, even though, at least in the past, even though the volatility is high, and you can kind of see here, and there's blue lines, right? These blue line is the moving averages, and when they have these, like, big humps, it just usually means that if you sold vol, that was pretty bad for you. So I look at the stats. Yeah, and they're doing it again. They're buying the 40 calls and April 35 puts. So they're saying it's going to go beyond that range, 270. So 43 or 32, right? So 43 or 32 is it's a pretty big range, but, you know, since it does move quite a bit, you know, that could happen. I see some calls being sold in August. So generally, these kind of companies haven't done that well, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm not interested in that one either. You know, the two other things that kind of jumps out at me, normally Joseph at Bank would, but since they have this, you know, takeover, this is almost like a non-event. And then you have BBRY and LULUMON. So let's actually check LULUMON. Just to give you guys a story, I got burned pretty bad in LULUMON back in the day when I shorted it, just because I was thinking, like, who the hell is gonna pay 150 bucks for yoga pants, right? That just shows you how much I know. But it looks like the puts are trading 2 to 1. Nothing here that's that great. Negative delta slightly. They're buying some options. I look at the chart. It's pretty high. Let me look at the yearly. Yeah, so it's yeah, I think it's actually trading at a 52-week high vol. And people are still kind of betting to the downside, and largest trades are these, but they're kind of like in the middle, so you don't know what's happening, right? So, you know, I look at this again, nothing really jumps out at me. Let me actually go to type it in. Luluman. Right. So, you know, I know some of the other apparel companies didn't do that well, like Guess. Like I shorted, I sold some options in Guess. It worked out pretty well because this happened, right? And then, but then I think A&F actually jumped on their earnings. So, you know, I don't know where Luluman is gonna land. Maybe, you know, if I just look at this, it looks like, you know, it seems like since it's down, there's more upside, but it's not strong enough for me to like go and start putting on trades. So this is 26 before, so I have a day to go. So I think what you guys can do is once you actually start identifying these, you can start looking at anything that you want to trade. So when there is something that I want to trade, stuff like just comes out at me. So I look at BlackBerry, looks like, you know, it's kind of stabilized since it had this like run from like $5 range all the way to $9. So maybe it's just kind of like consolidating. Who knows what's gonna happen afterwards? But as you can see, heavier calls are being traded on this before earnings than puts. We type this in. Right, so you know, it had the sell-off. You know, you can see if you look at the weeklies, huge sell-off, but it's still, it's kind of like, I think it's still below the 50-day moving average, looks like, by a little bit. 985 is trading 936, so it could actually possibly roll back down. That was a 50-week average, by the way. So we'll see how it goes. Or you might say, hey, look, it's gonna kind of wedge in there more. If you look at the volatility, you see how BlackBerry is it moved basically double digits on the average for the past 12 earnings report, and it's actually saying it's only going to move 9%. So if you are you know, if you actually think of BlackBerry moving the same amount it did in the previous earnings, you should be betting on some kind of movement greater than what the options are implying. But the options are definitely implying that maybe it's not going to move as much as previous 12 earnings average. So, you know, it's kind of to look something interesting to look at. This also has earnings 28 before market, so you have a couple of days. So you guys have those stocks to look at. I'm going to look at them a little bit more. I didn't look at them that much. In fact, me looking at them now with you guys, it's for some of them was the first time. But you know, I'll see what happens. I'm gonna just keep an eye on it for the rest of the day a little bit, and then see if that's something I'm interested in doing. Because I think there's always good opportunities during earnings cycles to play the earnings. But I think you have to be pretty selective. One other thing is that this whole talk about selling premium, and I touched on a little bit. I was thinking maybe one of the things I can do is try to sell some premium depending on the volatility, right? So just bear in mind that I'm using the charts, but it's only kind of showing me, afterwards, right? So who knows if this was the top? Maybe this was the top. So what I'm saying is, let's just assume you actually, this is what you're looking at, and you look at a 1 year high, and you're like, man, in February, the IWM was at a 1 year high in volatility. Maybe that's the time to sell some put spreads or puts. So you see how, like, every time there's a peak, I like this idea of selling some kind of strangle. Now I see that most retail clients sell it in some form of like condor, butterfly, but whatever you call it, condor, butterfly, strangle, it's kind of like a similar strategy in my opinion. And what we're trying to do is figure out how to optimize it. And I kind of see maybe like as this volatility goes up, you sell the puts, because that way you're taking two directions, right? You're selling volatility when it's high, and also you're betting on the market going up. So you're betting on two things. So if the stock does not keep going down and stays relatively flat here, then you also will make money. So you sell vol here on the put side, and maybe you can sell some call side when it goes to a 52-week low, right? So maybe down here, or down here, maybe you start selling some calls against it, right? So I'm looking into it because it's a form of selling. It's a selling premium strategy. I would probably only do it on the indexes just because there's no event risk in terms of like takeover or some kind of like crazy announcement or like accounting fraud or something like that. But I think it's interesting. And the more I'm thinking about it, maybe that's the way to go, is you use the volatility when it's high to sell a put, and when it's low to sell a call, but it's still very experimental at this stage. Now, so one thing that I think it's important to note, and this is where technical trading comes in, and I'm going to use some of it, is I wouldn't sell it too much when it's like when the Bollinger Bands get super narrow, right? If it gets super narrow, that means maybe it's about to move. But maybe when it gets wider, you see how like this Bollinger Band here got pretty wide, so maybe this is a good time to execute on the plan, and maybe this is a good time to execute on the plan, but maybe not so much here because it's getting tighter and tighter. But it's very early stages. I'll see how it goes. I wish I did a little more trading today, but I haven't. But I thought I'll throw in all these stocks for you guys to look at. If you guys have any comments, feel free to contact me at community@livevol.com. And also, if you guys want a free trial of the software, just go to livevol.com, type in LivevolX, and then you can see it there. I'm going to have some guests tomorrow. They are here for the live trading session and tour the floor a little bit, so it's pretty exciting. I always like visitors coming in and kind of having a face-to-face. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I'll do a little more trading as time goes. And I'm learning, but I think I'm getting, I'll learn quickly. I'll figure it out. Right now, my limitation is that I'm transitioning from a professional market maker account to a reg T account, which is my biggest adjustment, and the fact that my account, like for most of the guys probably looking at my video, you don't really have like $2 million accounts to trade. Most of the accounts are probably my size or smaller. So I think, what I'm trying to do is make this thing grow so eventually I can actually trade more. But maybe the ZNGA position that I have was a little bit too big for my equity position. But in the end, like, I had this position before I started broadcasting, and it was doing well, so I was just adding to it. And who knows? Maybe it'll work out. So today what I did in ZNGA, is buy some calls. But I'll keep track of it. Hopefully everyone's trading is going well. I am located in San Francisco, so contact livevol.com if you ever want to come by here and talk to me live. Otherwise, I hope your tradings go well, and I talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.